show me what your name is. Do you have a man who you came with?
All right, let's do this. Take us in, John.
All right, y'all. Welcome back, y'all. Street Academy Podcast, where we keep one foot in the academy and one foot in the street Z's. And we back, and we back,
We back,
and we
and
back,
we back.
Happy New Year. Happy
2022.
Month 2022.
Yeah.
We made it, y'all.
We did make
We
it.
made it. We
made it.
I made it.
We were going into a praise break immediately.
Look, all my gospel people, that Ty Tribbles. That Ty Tribbles.
Ty Tribbles.
We here, man. How y'all feeling? It's 2022. Y'all doing all right?
Yo.
Hey.
How was y'all New Year? What did y'all do? Like, what was the New Year like?
New Year is like y'all know about like in Encanto, that Disney movie where
we just watched it last night.
Yeah, I still need
It's called
Encanto.
Oh, was it like this like Latin Hispanic joint? Latinx joint?
Yeah.
Okay. I know.
And I haven't seen it yet. I need to see it. But I do know that we don't talk about Bruno. And I'm gonna say the new year is like Bruno. We don't talk about the new year because of some things that happened with the COVID.
Gotcha.
We don't speak about the new year.
Gotcha. I completely understand for sure.
So my New Year, I feel like it's just one of those things that has happened so long ago, but at the same time, I feel like once Delta started kicking back in, my conscientiousness about COVID just regenerated. And so I did not do anything outdoors or with other people for New Year's. Atlanta had scheduled our peach drop that had
that's right.
Like the peach drop had come back and then they canceled it again. And
that's
so
right.
I was just like, oh well. So my New Year's was just, another, hey, Happy New Year. Let's see a few fireworks. And that's it, But and then the year has started off a little rocky, but it also has started off with me believing in myself in different ways and doing different things for myself. And that feels good. So I do feel like there's some change in that way. So I'm still looking forward to this year, despite being, another year in the pandemic right now and recognizing the toll that's taking on me.
Yeah.
Because it is heavy, and we can't deny that. And I'm just still trying to work through self-care and figuring out what that looks like and trying to put it to a schedule, because I'm not on any kind of self-care schedule right now. So yeah. What about you, John?
Man, my holidays was rough. This holidays was rough because I was sick for I think I talked about on the last episode, but the last episode I was not feeling good at all. But I just, you just do what you got to do. But I was super sick throughout the holidays, and then because of COVID and all of that, just having to be by myself, I couldn't be with my family on Christmas like I wanted to. So I spent Christmas by myself, and New Year's what did I do for New Year? I was by myself on New Year's too, I think. I was by myself on New Year's. So it was just it's interesting because everything up until the New Year's was kind of sucked. I did end up seeing my family for a few days though. But after that, I don't know what happened, but I just got this renewed spirit. Like, I don't know. I don't know I think I just had to get through the holidays. But once that was done, I don't know, God just put me in a really great space. Like I just felt really good about 2022. I started doing the verbally manifesting what it is that I wanted. You know what I'm saying? I used to just kind of think about it like, well, I would love to do this. Or I would love if things worked out like this. Well, I know it's likely, it's probably, but like in the best case scenario, I started saying, you know what, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And when I tell you that manifesting stuff is real, like, I'm telling you, like, things really, when I was like, this is going to happen at this time. And things were actually moving. Like, it was just small stuff, but things were actually moving as, like, when I would say things was going to happen for real. You know what I'm saying? So I really do believe in I know we believe in like faith and believing in God and that sort of thing. And I mean, that's still top notch, but the Bible also says speak those things as if they were, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm starting to believe more in speaking what it is that you want and not having no limits on God. So 2022 for me is no limits on God, no limits on what things can be, manifesting and saying exactly what I want and really believing it, like really, 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 really believing it and moving on it. And so far 2022 has been beautiful. Not to say it hasn't had its, rocky parts, but honestly, I've just been in a great, great, great space. So
yes, that's great to hear.
Yeah. So I'm excited, y'all. We back. So this episode obviously is Black History Month, right?
Hey,
you already know how we get down. Also with Street Academy Podcast, we got some different things lined up with our schedule. So you're going to be getting more content from us. It may not always be in this format because we growing, we changing, we trying to do things differently. We trying to get more content while at the same time living our lives and trying to maintain our schedules and stuff. So you're going to be getting more content, but it may not be in this traditional format. Sometimes it'll be all three of us. Sometimes it'll be like just Amber may do an interview or Jackie may do an interview, or it might be two or whatever, but you're going to get more content from us. Our goal is to give y'all something every Sunday, have some content uploaded to our YouTube, uploaded to our IG. Them really the only two places we be. We probably should do like a Snapchat. I don't know nothing about Snapchat. Nothing like that. Y'all gonna have to pick one of them up. I don't know about it. But that's our goal. You know what I'm saying? That's our goal to get that. So y'all gonna be seeing that more and more. And just thank y'all for rocking with us 2022. New year, new podcast. And so you know what I'm saying? This episode, because it's Black History Month, we try to like stay within the realm of conversations, dialogue around Blackness. And so we are talking about Black food across the diaspora, the different ways in which Black people have engaged food. And already in the preparation for this show, I could tell you I was gonna be funny because we all have similar experiences with food, and then very different because we come from different places. We have different ethnicities represented just between us three, just where we grew up and all of that. So it's gonna be so interesting, and hopefully it leads y'all to like have a much, you know what I'm saying, a much larger discussion around like Black people and food and, you know what I'm saying, that sort of thing. So I'm excited. It's gonna be fun.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
So shall we go into the quick off the Georgia Dome? What are quick thoughts about Black people and food?
Black people and food.
30 seconds.
Dr. Hater.
I got it. Like, we all just eat the same thing. We just call it different stuff and might like add a little regional zhuzh on it, but we all just eat the same stuff.
Yeah. Okay. What you think, Amber? You think we all eat the same stuff?
My Georgia Dome, really, there was just one word that came to mind for me, and it was seasoning. And I just feel like seasoning is a part of just all of our foods, no matter where. And it's just the potency of it and the pungent, how pungent it is, like depending on where you go. And that to me is just exciting. I feel like it just represents how flavorful we are as a people. Like we got flavor, just like Khadijah James's. She chose
Flavor Unit.
She chose the correct name for her magazine. It's flavor, man. It's flavor. Flavor Flav chose the right name. He's talking about flavor. It's flavor.
Yeah.
Flavor. Okay, that's what the flavor. Man. Okay, and I gotta say that. Okay, no, keep going. Okay, I'm gonna say real quick. The reason why I was just connecting with a colleague the other day, and she was telling me about this little pizza she was making, and it sounded rather bland. And so then I was just like, throw some, garlic or oregano or something. She's like, oh, yeah.
I'm assuming this was a white colleague.
This was a woman who is white.
Yes. She was from the mountains of Caucasus.
more than likely from the mountains of the Caucasus region.
The Caucasus region.
And it's like, I love her, and I would have thought she would have used seasoning. She was just like, wow, this really changed things. And I was like,
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. But anyway, flavor.
That is so funny. Oh my God.
No, they don't have no ancestors whispering to them, sprinkle some more, my child.
Sprinkle some more, baby. Which is actually what you said, Jackie, just goes into my off the Georgia Dome, because when I think about Black people and food, I think about creativity and art and how the older I get. I remember when I first started cooking, I would ask my mama, like, okay, how much of salt do I put in? How much, this do I put in, that do I put in? She was like, she would try to tell me, like, maybe a teaspoon. I don't know. You just put in whatever you feel. So when Black people make food, we just feel it. It ain't no recipe. It ain't no nothing. You just keep making it till you get it right. You know what I'm saying? And then once you do, you just know. You know what I'm saying? So like all the dishes I make, I don't got no recipes down. I just know. And every time I do it, it's gonna be different. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be
it's about the mood.
It's about the mood. It's just about how I feel. You know what I'm saying? It's just that's just what it is. And I like to cook because I like to be creative. You know what I'm saying? With my cooking. So when I think about Black people and food, I think about how creative we are with it. And it reminds me of how we do music. Like if you're a musician or artist, like if you perform every time you do it, it's gonna be different. If you're a poet, you're gonna do your poem differently every time, because it's just gonna come out different. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what I think about creativity.
I'm into it. Now, you know what? I'm sorry. Like, as soon as you mentioned like not knowing like if it's a teaspoon or something, I'm like, who created food measurements? Where did this come from? Because I feel like for us, it also made me just think about like the same way with Black music, how because it wasn't understood, it's just like a lot of times you see people trying to break it down and explain what it is, so that they can then duplicate it. And so I feel like in some way, measurements are like that too. It's just like, well, if we're trying to make this noodle cheese pie, then how much do they put in it? I don't know. They just go like that. How much is that, nigga? I don't. We gotta create something to measure that. It's like, okay, I guess. So they put in 1 teaspoon of salt. And then and it's just, I don't know. But now I just looked up the mother of level measurements, Fanny Farmer was the person who created standard measures. And right now, from the looks of it, looks like she was a white woman. And so, but we got to keep looking at it. But I got to look into that, because I feel like what has happened to Black music has happened to Black foods in some ways too. It's just like trying to create a formula for it so that it can be duplicated, But anyway, we'll come back to that.
But when I think of something that's like formulaic, like the minute you said Fanny was a white woman who invented measurements, I'm like, well, I don't necessarily know if I believe that, because we know that like white people just get credit for things that they don't necessarily.
This is also true.
But at the same time, like, I don't know if I, as we're talking, like believe that Black people aren't formulaic. Like we're formulaic.
This is true.
The way we communicate isn't necessarily through rigid means.
That's a good one.
That's true.
And even though we might be formulaic, like we are people and community minded. And so there's room to like divert from a formula. Like here's the formula, here's the recipe. But if you don't want to do that, then you don't have to. Like, you're not bound. We're not controlling your humanity in these really rigid ways.
Right.
And you know what? Let me catch myself too. I'm glad you said that, because something is not necessarily more artistic if it lacks a formula. And I think that's an interesting kind of I think conflict that comes in with art and science, is though like it's more artistic if I'm not thinking about it. If it's just like this thing that it's just like it seems to be flowing. It's not less artistic if I am using a formula to say it needs 3 pounds of this, 1 pound of this, and that's still equally as interesting. It's just a different method. And I think sometimes I can say for myself, I think I have a bias towards the kind of the visual of a more like kind of fluid, like I'm just doing it from my mind because it seems more like a spiritual type of thing. But just as equally are people who write it down and say this needs 3 teaspoons of this, that. And Black people do that. Black people are scientists, and we are formulated just as much as we are completely free flowing with things, and art is all of it. I'm okay with it all being artistic. So I need to say that for my own self. Check my bias. Okay.
Cool. That's what's up, y'all. So yeah, let's get into these topics, man. Let's get into what we mean when we say food. Family food tradition. So we all come from different places, and me and Amber are African American. Jackie is West Indian or Caribbean, has Caribbean background. I'm from Florida, Amber's from Georgia, Jackie's from New York. And so we have these various kind of Black experiences. So it will be interesting to know what some of our food traditions were and how they were the same and how they're different based on our ethnicity or just our region. You know what I'm saying? What were some of the similarities and differences, and like how our families and friends or whatever like experience food and gathered around food and stuff. So yeah.
All right. So I think an easy way to talk through it might be for each of us to kind of just share, what did we have for breakfast? What do we have for lunch? What do we have for dinner? And when it was a family occasion, what did we actually eat? Because I feel like in those, and depending on the family occasion, I'm sure there's different types of family occasions that would bring out different types of food. So, because it starts there. It starts right there in the morning when you wake up. So when you wake up, when you were a child, what did you eat? What did your parents give you?
Cereal, because we was trying to go to school. And everybody was running late. Nigga, get these Frosted Flakes. Put a pound of sugar on that thing.
Yo, I love putting sugar on top of Frosted Flakes. I know it was
it's the worst.
It's the worst. Like, make them more sugar in, please.
Sugar, and then wondering why we not paying attention in class. We hopping off the wall.
Yeah, Kellogg's was a major part of my family. Of my mornings.
My gosh.
Smacks.
Oh my gosh. No, but yeah, on like those. So that would be like a regular if I gotta go to school, but like on those kind of like weekends or something. You talking eggs, grits, waffles, man, pancakes, turkey sausage, man, hash browns. The eggs gotta have like a nice butter with the black pepper, salt on them.
Okay.
Cheese eggs, man. What I said hash.
Do you do runny eggs?
Runny eggs?
Yeah.
Like sunny side up?
Yeah.
Nah, I didn't have that till I got older. That looked weird to me. I thought
I didn't grow up.
I thought white people did that because
I thought white people did it too until I started seeing Black people doing it. I was like, wow, okay. I did not grow up on no runny eggs. We always had hard eggs. I didn't even know we had to call them hard until I went to restaurants and I saw it kind of a little too wiggly and wet.
Yeah.
Please cook those as hard as possible. Thank you very much.
Yeah, nah, definitely scrambled. Yeah, that was kind of like what we did for breakfast. Yeah.
I would say we were similar. Everything that you said, John, is pretty much like, morning, like school mornings would be any kind of range of cereals, maybe some oatmeal, but no kind of special oatmeal. We just had instant oatmeal. And then on like when there was time, there would be like the grits and the eggs. And the eggs, this is what I think is unique, I think in some ways about Black Americans, or maybe not, is the eggs are cooked simple for us. It's just like salt and pepper. It's not garlic and onion and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have that until like, unless you're doing like an omelet or something, but scrambled eggs, it's just pretty much like salt and black pepper. And that's pretty much it.
Actually, we didn't do that. We cut up, my moms would cut up green onions.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it would be peppers in there. It'll be like,
okay.
Yeah, it'll be all kind of different stuff in there on like special occasions. If it's during the weekend, we like just got to get, go to school or whatever. It would just, do the regular salt and pepper. But, oh yeah, when I got time, I'm cutting up green onions, peppers, all that other kind of stuff. I'm hooking it up.
Yes. if there's time, we could do that. But if there's no time, it's just really simple. And I actually really liked it that way. And I didn't realize that was so simple until I was over. We were having a brunch with some Caribbean people, and I was making the eggs, and they were like, and I'm like, what? And they're like, I'm like, okay, my bad. Give it to somebody else. So yeah. Oh, and then we also had our share of veggie meat. Growing up as Adventists, we had Morningstar, all kind of stuff.
Oh, Morningstar, yeah.
What about you, Jackie?
Yeah, this is a really foreign experience from my childhood. I will say this about Caribbean people, and let me be specific, my kind of Caribbean people, because Caribbean people are not a monolith. But definitely in my family and people that I knew, they value what we might call cooked food. Every meal is cooked food and every meal is hot. Even in the summer, if you're in the Caribbean, you might have a bowl of soup because you need hot food.
Like, okay.
The idea of like you have to have cooked food for your meal is like a thing. Yeah. And so when I was little, before I was able to like assert myself a little bit more, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Like I had cream of wheat frequently for breakfast.
Yeah, I had cream of wheat.
I mean, cream of wheat, if you know, folks are not familiar, you could find it in the same like cereal aisle that you could find like oatmeal and grits in. It's like in that same family. It's a grain. You add water, boil it, add mostly like a cinnamon, a vanilla. So it's like a very sweet sort of sugar sweet sort of dish. So I had cream of wheat a lot growing up. And then I also had like cups of tea. I had to drink tea in the morning.
Oh, tea is big for y'all.
Like if my grandmother was there, I would have like a mug, like a grown man mug of tea at like, you know, this big, like the mug is the same size as my body. That whole mug of tea.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was no orange juice. There was no.
Big old jug.
We had hot cooked food to start your day.
Wait, can you remind the people where your people are from?
Oh yeah.
So my mom is from the U.S. Virgin Islands. So grew up with like American traditions like Thanksgiving. My dad is from the British Virgin Islands, which is maybe a 30-minute boat ride away from the US Virgin Islands. So they actually like use American currency and things like that. So he also grew up with like a lot of American traditions as well. And so, yeah. And then they moved to New York. They met each other at a club in the Bronx. And then
nice.
Yes, the DJ came on and was like, this is the last song, find someone who makes it special. Word. And my dad went up to my mom and was like, this is my favorite song, will you dance with me?
What?
And the song was Always and Forever.
What?
Always and forever.
Oh wow, that's such a perfect story.
Yes. And years later, when they were getting married, my mom was like, well, obviously we got to dance to Always and Forever. And my dad was like, I don't know that song. And that's the face that my mom made. I just wanted you to dance with me. So,
I don't know.
Really?
That's story. Yep.
He started a relationship.
That's a great story. That's a great story. I love that. But it's so interesting how going through food makes you think about, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. All these different like, you know, moments or whatever. Like food is super important to us as Black people, for sure.
So we had our breakfast. What about lunch? Or we could do lunch and dinner together.
Yeah, I was gonna say lunch. Speaking from my experience, lunch wasn't it wasn't anything significant. That more so had to do with class as opposed to race. So like, I never ate hot dog buns until I got to be an adult. We ate hot dogs on bread.
Regular bread.
And I folded that mug over with the ketchup. Like, I didn't even know hot dog buns was a thing. Like, so yeah. Lunch was more about social class.
That's funny.
Bologna that
Lunch,
you had to tear the red tape off of.
Yep, it was a bologna sandwich.
Oh,
It was peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, peanut butter jelly.
Grape jelly.
I don't remember too much about lunch. I feel like probably because I was in school. So I either had whatever my parents put in my lunchbox or whatever they were serving at school.
Did your parents put the hot food in your lunch?
No.
Okay.
I feel like maybe they did every so often because I do remember having like chicken and rice one day at school, but also like how do you heat that stuff up? Like, so it was like complicated. And then how do you like preserve it so that it doesn't like spoil if it can't go in the fridge and all that? So
I just was curious about your experience like that being amongst other kids, because I would hear different stories of either children who were immigrants or who were from non atypical American households where you're doing just like the pizza and the whatever, for lunch, and they feeling a little self-conscious or insecure about the smells that would come from their lunch, because like their food was different and people would be like, what does this person have today? And so I was just curious if you had an experience like that growing up.
No, like living in New York, everybody was from somewhere.
See, that's the difference. Yeah.
Whether you were Black or not. I mean, yeah. Well, I went to school with Black people. So like whether you were American or not, like, or Caribbean or not Caribbean, like everybody was from somewhere. So everybody had some of everything.
Makes sense. Gotcha.
What about you?
Then dinner. Okay, well, for me, yeah, it was the same thing. Like, just a regular smuggler. Well, see, this is the thing. I'm considering a regular smuggler, which for me, this was regular. It was, Doritos and sandwiches, whatever kind of sandwich, nothing real special, like, pizza, frozen pizza, or hot dogs and beanie weenies, like beans and weenies. We definitely did that a lot. And it's so funny because I grew up with bologna. I'm a vegetarian now, so I haven't had a piece of bologna with taking the red. Do they even have that anymore? The bologna with the red
I
on the outside?
I'm sure they do. How could they not?
As soon as I got a little bit of money, I stopped buying that.
But let me tell you, it used to be so. As a kid, I remember making bologna for breakfast. And I would love to blacken it and make it and create the little hole, it had the little dome and stuff. I loved it. It was.
I used to hook up, fried bologna though, and then when you put it in the frying pan and that joint bubble up in the middle. Yeah, that's a little meal.
Yeah, that's
a little meal. Yeah, that's the meal.
But other than that, I think it was just pretty plain. It was plain. Not plain. There wasn't anything too memorable about it.
Gotcha.
I don't think. Gotcha. Yeah, same. We would have frozen broccoli or like canned string beans or and you know what, as we're talking through this too, it also makes me think about just, different family dynamics and how that shapes our food experiences, of course. So my parents were divorced when I was in 4th grade. And so after that, I feel like the food experience definitely changed because the food responsibility was not on 2 parents, and so that shifted things. And so it shifted things to things that could be more prepared by children, really. Because my mom became a single mother. And so it's just like, we became a little bit more responsible for our food, or because she's working a lot, she would do what was quicker throughout in the regular day, not on the weekend. So we did have way more fast food, I think. So lots of Taco Bell, and we had hot wings. Being from Atlanta, growing up on hot wings definitely was a thing. Lemon pepper, extra wet, jalapeno poppers. And we gravitated towards really simple meals like frozen pizza and salad, or like griller burgers and French fries, like frozen fries. So it definitely things that I would say weren't things that would take a long time to prepare, but more so just things that were kind of quick.
Yeah. I didn't really think about like how all of these external factors might have influenced the type of food that we grew up with. Because as I'm thinking about it, like both of my parents worked. And I don't know if it was just like, all right, well, because of our cultural values, like even if we gotta cook until whatever time, like that's just what we're gonna do. And I think about my mom. My mom is a super picky eater.
Mm-hmm.
Like Amber, you were at my wedding, like you saw all, like the spread that we had, like food everywhere. I think my mom had like one or two of the dishes.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, I'm not trying any of these other things. Like I'll have like, you know, a couple spoonfuls of this and maybe that's about it. So she's like very picky. So even with the idea of like, all right, well, we could go to this fast food place or go to this restaurant. Like my mom doesn't go to restaurants. Like she's just that picky. So I think, you know, even for her as a working mom, like she was like, I gotta eat and I don't eat like a lot of stuff. Like I know what I cook and I know I'm gonna like that. And so I guess I'll just make enough for everybody since I'm gonna make something for myself anyway.
You know, that makes me think too of something else that we used to eat, which was salads. And I thought about that because you said we didn't do restaurants. And I remember on the weekends we would go to Ryan's, which was
Ryan's
a favorite
everything.
restaurant. And so we loved going to Ryan's. And so I think about what I used to get. I would have little chicken wings and I would have salads. Even as a kid, just making my little typical, like I would have like French dressing and croutons and cheese and all that kind of stuff. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because more recently I was, there's this restaurant, an Indian restaurant that I go to, and they have a platter where they have like the rice, they have some butter paneer, and they have a little salad. And I was like, that's perfect. I just want a little salad with it. But I went to another Indian restaurant and they no longer had a salad. And it made me wonder, wait, do Indians really eat salad like that? Is salad a part of Indian cuisine? And so I started looking it up. And granted, there are a number of ethnicities across India. So I don't necessarily think this can speak for all, but in general, salad was not a thing. Salad is not a typical thing that is a part of Indian cuisine. And so even in that way, I'm like, where does salad come from as a side? I don't actually know. For you, Jackie, was salad ever a thing?
I do remember eating salads when I was little. I'm trying to remember if it was like a salad in a bag or if like people were cutting up stuff. I just remember having salad and French dressing also being my thing. I don't know what it is about kids. I don't even know if kids still do French dressing now, but I just heard something about that little bright orange dressing. Yes.
That's so weird because when I think about the different dressings, there was one dressing that I ate from 1984 to 2007. And it was ranch, nigga. It was ranch all day on everything. There was no blue cheese. It wasn't no Italian, maybe Italian, but Italian is my favorite.
Blue cheese for the hot wings, though? You didn't have blue cheese with like
ranch.
Celery?
Ranch was the only dressing I knew. That's all I thought dressing was ranch. I thought it was ranch dressing. I didn't know there was Thousand Island, like French, like none of that. Yeah, no, it was ranch. It was ranch dressing. Like that was it for sure.
Yeah, I know this is hotly debated, this blue cheese versus ranch on like wings and stuff like that.
I didn't grow up on ranch like that. I only had ranch just every now and again. My mom was a fan of blue cheese on the side with the celery sticks and stuff when you order hot wings. Yeah. So ranch was not my thing growing up really at all. And when ranch was, to me, happened on more special occasions because it was somebody else bringing it in. It wasn't my family. So
I even feel like my parents ate French dressing. Like I'm trying to remember when that transition from French dressing started. And I'll just say, like, my dad is not a picky eater. Like if I give my dad a plate of something that's like not even like he's, you know, like he doesn't know if it's chicken or beef or whatever, he's gonna eat it anyway. Like he's just not a eater. So I'm like, well, maybe they were just eating it because I wanted French and they were like, well, we have money to get one dressing, or like for the yeah, we don't need, you know, just on principle, we don't need 50 living dressings. So
well, then let's go to our like special occasion foods. What would people, when they're trying to do the daggone thing, what did people cook?
I just remember special occasions being everything that we would usually have for dinner, but like all at the same time.
Okay.
I almost forgot about this. My parents, being Caribbean, are big fish people. So I remember us I never liked fish. And in fact, my parents would often call me, how did you, the things that we eat as Caribbean. And it's very true. Like I have a very limited number of things that I eat that are Caribbean. Like, but those, 3-4 things, I'll smash them any day of the week. But yeah, I just remember us having some like universal traditions. At least I would consider them universal, like some sort of rice dish. In our case, it was rice and peas. I forgot that. Like we used to have rice and peas too, in addition to the white rice. So it would usually be rice and peas. We wouldn't have white rice for a special occasion. Mac and cheese, and part of that was because I loved mac and cheese, so much so that when I had like one of my little kitty checkups, my mom brought it up to my doctor and was like, this kid loves mac and cheese. I don't know what to do. And the doctor was like, if it don't bother you to give her the Kraft, then just give it to her. Like, hey, mac and cheese. And so because the doctor sanctioned me eating mac and cheese, like my mom would give me mac and cheese like any day of the week.
Oh, that's funny. Is this what kind of mac and cheese? Is this like baked mac and cheese or what?
Yeah, my parents would sometimes like cook mac and cheese from scratch, but often because I wanted mac and cheese like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it would be Kraft.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so like, and that was, fine with them. I get that little bright orange powder. I guess there was some sort of obsession with orange foods when I was little. I get the bright orange powder, make it myself, like, once I got a little bit older. But we would have, the rice and peas, the mac and cheese. For like Thanksgiving, we would have the turkey. But there will often be like a stewed chicken or something. There would often be like a fish. There is something that Caribbean people make that's called potato casserole. And it's like mashed potatoes. It's made with, don't get me to lying, like yams or sweet potatoes. I don't know which one. I'm guessing sweet potatoes since it's called potato casserole. And then it's almost seasoned like sweet potatoes because I think there's like cinnamon and stuff in it. I never liked it, so that's one of the Caribbean foods that I can like leave to the side. So there's potato casserole. What else? Those are the things that I really remember, like some kind of vegetable, usually like a corn. Those are the things that I remember. Oh, there's like a cornbread dish too, like a cornbread casserole. It's not like traditional like a square cornbread. It's baked in like a baking dish. I guess like cornbread is sometimes baked in a baking dish, but it has like actual corn in it. So.
Yo, when you was talking about mac and cheese, I gotta say it, like this is where the divide comes in the Black community. Because I feel like Black Americans make the best mac and cheese. Like we got the mac and cheese game a lot. You understand me? Like and let me tell you something. Like I've never had Virgin Island mac and cheese. I've never had your mac and cheese, Jackie, or your people's mac and cheese. So it might be the biz. I'm talking about the bake. I ain't talking about the crab. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about the bake tray. But like I've been to Jamaican restaurants and when they making mac and cheese, and I'm like, that's cute. You know what I'm saying? Like it's nice. You know what I mean? But it ain't nothing. And that's still a big thing in my family. Like we have a specific way in which we make it, and I honestly don't know where it like came from, like how far back it goes, but I know it goes back pretty far in terms of like who I don't know if it go from slavery or whatever, but I know that that literally that was what we had after church every Sabbath. Like we had mac and cheese with might have been, you know, chicken, cabbage, rice, greens, sweet potato, like whatever. But we always had this specific mac and cheese. And so like I make it to this day, I make it for my friends, like everybody love it. And it's just, that is a very, very special dish for me. And that's a very special dish for my family. So no matter if we getting together for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, and talking about traditions even, like we had the regular, you know what I'm saying, soul food, Black American soul food or whatever. But like we would get together and mac and cheese was always in the center of it. If I had to preach a sermon that Sabbath and like all the family came in town to hear me preach a sermon, then we all coming together at my grandma's house, my house, or if we in Tampa at my auntie in their house or something like that, and we all eating. Like food was just at the center of, if all of us coming over, all right, who all cooking? What you gonna make? What you gonna make? What you gonna make? And like everybody could cook. My mama could cook, my daddy could cook, my aunties could cook. Well, actually, one of my aunties can't cook. She
don't listen to this episode.
She knows she can't cook, but she got the money, so she'll just.
Okay, I was gonna say she's gonna have something different.
Yeah. She got money. You know what I'm saying? She got a little bit of money.
She don't need to cook.
She don't need to cook.
She ain't gotta cook. She ordered.
Yeah.
But yeah, like food was a big thing. Like it even if we was beefing, if family was beefing, you bring out the food. Everybody sitting down, we eating, we talking, we telling embarrassing stories. Like that's what we gonna do. We gonna and the kids like to eat with the adults because we gonna tell embarrassing stories about the adults. So like even that, like
that's cool.
I didn't necessarily want to sit at the kids' table. I wanted to sit at the adults' table to listen to like all the jokes they would tell, the nasty jokes they would tell, embarrassing stories they would say about each other. And I realized that recently with my little cousin, he might be like 13, 14 years old. And so it's my actual cousin that's around my age is his son. And so like, I just remember I was at the table or whatever with like my auntie, my aunties, my parents or whatever, grandma and all of that. And I found myself telling stories to him about what me and his daddy used to do growing up. And he would just be sitting there like just laughing or like, oh man, like y'all did that. And like I found myself being on the other side of that.
Right.
Like, oh, we used to do this. We used to act the fool. Your uncle almost burnt down the house. Or actually your uncle did burn down the house. Like all these crazy stories we would tell. And I'm like, damn, I'm right here where I used to, you know what I'm saying? What I used to be. So food, man, was just, man, it was everything. It was everything. And then of course afterwards we like, everybody knocked out. Like I will remember just eating. And then everybody, like all the kids laid out, the 10 Commandments is playing after church because that's the only thing that we could watch.
I still haven't seen the whole 10 Commandments.
Yul Brynner's The 10 Commandments or some kind of Bible movie or something. And we all just laid out, passed out on the floor, adults passed out on the couch on the bed, all the kids passed out on the floor. And yeah, that was life, man. It was great. Those was great times.
I love that. So speaking of mac and cheese, because mac and cheese is definitely one of the things that for my family was a thing. So I got to just understand a little bit about your mac and cheese recipe before I go into my list of things. So does your mac and cheese recipe call for eggs?
My mac and cheese recipe does, yes. I can't give you the whole thing.
I'm not going to ask for the whole thing. I'm just making sure because these specific ingredients change how the mac and cheese is. Does it call for evaporated milk?
Yes.
All right. I can eat your mac and cheese. Next question. Does your mac and cheese have onions in it?
No.
Does your mac and cheese have garlic in it?
No.
All right. I can eat your mac and cheese. The reason I say that too.
I was going to say, who put that stuff in there?
So my first time, and we're going to get into first experiences with other types of foods and traditions, but not until I had gone up to Boston and I went to a predominantly Caribbean church and they had mac and cheese and somebody's mac and cheese had onions and garlic in it and stuff. And I was just like, it didn't taste bad. It didn't taste bad. It tasted good for what it was, but it was not for me my idea of mac and cheese, but everybody was just like, oh, this is mac and cheese. But I'm like, okay, this is like kind of a Haitianized version or something because the person was Haitian. I don't know, because it's like they wanted to put more like vegetables and stuff in it. I'm just like, I've never put garlic or onions in mac and cheese. I just couldn't. I was just like, what is going on? But it's just like, I look at it as like, that's a type of mac and cheese. That's not the mac and cheese that I grew up with or that I know or that I consider like when I'm thinking of like mac and cheese, I'm thinking of the like either you make it with ziti, so you get that stuff all in there, or you make it with regular noodles or something. But like it's a specific type of mac and cheese that I'm thinking about. So for me, special occasions would be this mac and cheese that was very much, you know, like salt and pepper. That was what it is. Like I have to have a good amount of pepper in the mac and cheese for my family. And collard greens, even though I forgot on regular days, on regular dinners, we might have turnip greens, but for some reason, we never had collard greens really outside of special occasions. So collard greens, yams, of course, any version of yams. My grandma used to make a sweet potato casserole, actually. Not casserole, sweet potato cobbler, which was just exquisite that we used to always love. Still don't know the recipe on that. Still got to figure that out. But she also used to make a squash casserole, which was great. My mom used to make a carrot casserole, which was also really delicious. We used to have, of course, the turkey, sometimes turkey wings. I never liked turkey wings. I just felt like the wing was too big. I don't even know, as a kid, I think that leg was just too big for me. It just reminded me of like too much like an animal. It's like, man, you really eat it.
Like y'all really killed this turkey.
Y'all really killed this mug.
Y'all waited till this nigga was 35. Like he was good at his
It's like, this is not a, it's like, I think the little chicken wings, I'm like,
this turkey graduated from college, had a job, he was like,
had a family.
He was working out, like
he had a retirement plan. This was an old ass animal for it to be big, and I just was never comfortable with them turkey legs. So we have that, and of course, like special occasions would also include like barbecues and things. So tons of barbecue, hot dogs.
Yes.
I used to kill hot dogs. I know I remember seeing something recently just about hot dogs being so terrible for your health. But man, when I used to eat hot dogs, we used to have beef hot dogs, slather them in Sweet Baby Ray's. It was it was a wrap.
Sweet Baby Ray's, yes. You got to have
Baby Ray's. Just all, and then for me, it's also Trappy's hot sauce, which was a thing in my house. And like, so yeah, like chicken wings, hamburgers, on potato salad. My mom will make a macaroni salad. We've never had an issue with like the potato salad or macaroni salad with raisins or something in it. Like never, that was never a thing. Deviled eggs, love deviled eggs. I still love deviled eggs, even though I don't eat eggs anymore for real, but deviled eggs, I don't know, it's something about them I love. And we used to have fried green tomatoes on occasion.
I didn't start eating that till I got older. The fried green.
My mom would make them special for us. Like that would be one of those special breakfasts. I forgot about that, like fried green tomatoes, or we would have salmon patties. That would also be a thing that we would eat sometimes. Fish was like, so Jackie, you mentioned fish. Fish wasn't a huge thing in my house, actually. I didn't really start eating more fish until I started going towards like vegetarianism. Like on my way to vegetarianism was like kind of like a pescatarian stop. But if we did have fish, it would be like salmon, but barbecue salmon fish, which was awesome for me.
I never had that. Barbecue salmon fish?
Barbecue, yeah, it would be barbecue sauce and lemon. So it's like a lemon barbecue sauce salmon.
Ooh, that sounds good. Send me that recipe.
I haven't cooked that in so long, and it was really my mom's recipe. But that was delicious. And I'm trying to think of other things. Those were the staples. And then of course, like my grandma, she was such an amazing cook. So she made all kinds of cakes. Her cakes were crazy. I still have only had like about 2 times people who have made cakes as good as my grandma. Like her cakes are just like store worthy, but it doesn't taste like a store bought because this is like a homemade cake. So her cakes were amazing. She would make it wouldn't necessarily be a pound cake, but it'd be like a vanilla cake with like a fresh lemon icing, where she would put the zest of the lemon in it. So it was very tart, but it was very tart and sweet. The glaze was amazing. So we would have that. Sweet potato pies. We didn't do the yams with the marshmallows on top, but we just had regular yams. So yeah, like for me, Thanksgiving or Christmas, if it doesn't at least have mac and cheese, yams, and collard greens, something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the Trinity to me for my understanding, for my family's version of soul food.
Let me say this, because there has been an excess amount of hate on Caribbean mac and cheese. Let me just address
I'm about to come with some blows back now. Y'all ain't gonna be talking about my people.
And holleration in this dance.
In this dancery. I'm sorry.
In this kitchen. Y'all not gonna be hating in this kitchen.
Do you have onions in your mac and cheese, Jackie?
I do not. So I don't know how to make Caribbean mac and cheese. Like I've tried, it hasn't been successful. I make like Black American mac and cheese when I do make mac and cheese.
Okay.
And I mean, it's delicious. Not just because I make it, but Black American,
you're not biased at all.
No, Black American mac and cheese is very delicious. I think I love Caribbean mac and cheese because it just brings back like those childhood memories. I don't know if y'all remember like the kiddie movie Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And how at the end the little mouse made the dish that the food critic, his mom would make. I guess it was the Ratatouille. And like the memory took him back to like being with his mom and stuff like that. And so he was like, this is the best thing ever. And I feel like when I have Caribbean mac and cheese, like it brings back that feeling of like, you know, being a kid again and being with family and all that stuff. I just don't know how to make it. And so I find it to be very delicious. My kind of Caribbean people don't put onions and garlic and other like items other than like the noodles and the sauce in our mac and cheese. But I have had mac and cheese that has some of everything in it. Like it's more like a macaroni salad than cheese. But I also find it to be delicious. Remember, I told you the doctor told my mom that
you just love mac and cheese.
I've been a connoisseur for a while now.
Yeah, and if you started with
be delicious. I mean, I will say that my kind of Caribbean people, we do put the powders in it to make
what powders?
We'll put like the garlic powder or the onion powder in addition to like the salt and pepper and stuff. And that's what gives it like the extra flavor that distinguishes it from like Black American mac and cheese, which I think is more just like the salt and the pepper and the cheeses.
Yeah, that garlic and onion just feels like what it feels like heretical.
I've never, maybe I should try, but I've never. Now I do have a question with y'all before we go to the next topic, which I know our next one is about. What's up?
And I just also want to say, I do like the mac and cheese. I'm not hating on y'all's mac and cheese.
It's good.
It's good. It's just not the same. Okay.
It's not the same. So I know we're gonna talk about like our experiences with like eating eating food across the diaspora. But one thing I do want to ask, and I don't know if it's the case with y'all, what were the experiences like around making the food? So I know for me, it wasn't just about the food as much as it was like hearing all the noise happening in the kitchen with my aunties and my mom and my grandmother, like all in the kitchen together. And it was like, I just remember there always being so much noise around making the food. The TV was always on blasting, or if it was Sabbath, there was like always talking, always laughter. It was noise around it that kind of added to the flavor or added to the experience. And then also, I know there was a lot of I know for me, I like to either listen to music or I like to listen to like podcasts or something that takes me out of the actual cooking experience, and it kind of adds to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, it's I don't know how to explain it, but something has to be going on as I'm cooking so it doesn't seem so serious. It just seems like I'm just kind of just moving, adding this, doing this, whatever. If I'm watching like a YouTube, I might like go back to YouTube or something, but I like, it's always music around when it's, when I'm, like when we're eating or something like that, you got music in the background. Or like if I'm cooking, I know I used to have this tradition with my daughter where like we would sit down, we would eat dinner. I would have like something playing on the record player and we'll just kind of sit down and talk. And so I know music was a big part of the food kind of experience in my family and even in my like current food process. You know what I'm saying? Music, entertainment, food, And then when all my family's around, it's like laughter is you can't make food. You can't make food without noise. There's got to be some noise in the background. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was the case with y'all. I was just curious.
I know exactly what you mean about like the cooking process now. And actually that's what like saved me in terms of self-care in doctor school. Because when you're in school, like you don't have like a bunch of money going out, you don't necessarily have a bunch of time because you're supposed to be working on whatever you're working on, whether that's your dissertation or classes or whatever that might be. And so my self-care would often be taking 2 hours in a given day to like cook this elaborate meal. And I would often have like, one of those long podcasts playing in the background, or I might turn on like a movie and have that playing in the background. So I know exactly what you mean as far as like this process of cooking. And that's, I don't know, like now that you said it, and now that I'm reflecting on it, like I'm wondering if that was me trying to like replicate this experience of like familial cooking by just having that additional like noise and interaction if I was like by myself, because of course, like when I was in doctor school, nobody moved with me to Wisconsin. So I was out there, just trying to make it work.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just like wondering if like that was part of it, but I really like enjoyed that time. And in fact, like I replicated that a couple nights ago. Like I was just like making a quick dinner and I put on the highly recommend the Andre Leon Talley documentary.
Oh yeah, I watched it.
It's really good. And so I just had that, I was watching it as I was cutting stuff up or whatever, and ended up, just making whatever. I can't even remember what I made, but just like something quick for dinner. Just had that going. So
nice.
I love that as a practice. I think I do it sometimes, but I don't think I'm as intentional as you both have mentioned. I think I just do it just to pass the time, but to do it to kind of be almost a departure, I think I'm gonna start trying that. When I think about my family and meals, I feel like a lot of times we already had the food prepared, and so then we came together, and then it was the process of warming things up, which was always interesting. I would never say it felt peaceful, or it just felt like, we're ready to eat now. Come on, food. Like you like looking in the oven, like, come on, and just baking. Okay?
It was chaotic. It's like,
this wasn't no, hi everybody, soul food family. What's that song that played at the end of Soul Food? It's that Stevie Wonder song. Do you know what the song is?
As the sun goes down, the earth goes with it.
Yeah, that was not playing in the background. Like, if somebody
yours was nuts if you buck. You get
exactly.
You get nuts if you don't get your plate dirty.
This isn't a Stevie Wonder background that's slowed down and everybody's like, we definitely got that, man. A different kind of energy in there. But I will say, when it comes to barbecues, for me, the family barbecues is what comes to mind the most, which is for me just like, people cooking is hot outside. It's just like everybody's watching for when stuff is ready and due, because you want to make sure that you get your amounts. Everybody is definitely.
I want that piece of chicken right there. That's my chicken. That one look right there. That's the good one.
Exactly. So I feel like everybody was looking out for themselves, but also you would have like, camaraderie with different people. Like, did you get me how to like make sure you get me what I need? So I feel like, even though there was togetherness, I think there was also a bunch of, because the food was as good as it was, it's also very much like, I need to make sure I get mine before somebody else gets it, because this junk is delicious and we don't get this often. So, okay, where them hot dogs at? Like, I can't even tell you how many hot dogs I would stow away for myself. And the same with the deviled eggs. Because, there's never enough deviled eggs, because just to make one pack, you have to use 2 dozen. So you have to use like 1 dozen, you get 24. But if you got 6 people there, everybody's gonna at least want 4. So, I'm like trying to pay attention to who else likes deviled eggs, because I'm like, I don't want to be horrible about putting like 6 of them on my plate. Just like the proper thing is to do like just do two,
Three.
you know, because there's somebody behind you. I don't care. I just wanted the whole thing to myself. And so for me, maybe that was my problem. I was all about me at these barbecues. I wasn't, it's like family. Yes, we're here together. Let's talk. Food.
We can go to a barbecue together because I do not like deviled eggs. So I'll put a couple on my plate.
Yes.
And
Just slide them on over. Slide them on over.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, John, I guess for me, when I think about the experience of making of the food, it's like for me, the most vivid memories are the ones at barbecues where we're just all sitting out there together and we're kind of just waiting. And you know, my family is absolutely the inventors of Negro time because we do not start things until hours later. And so that definitely contributes to the knuck if you buck attitude once the food is actually ready, because we said it was starting
forever.
Oh, hell yeah, we've been waiting. So when that stuff is finally ready, we're not cheerful. It's just kind of like, all right, man, say the blessing, say it quick, and let's go.
Good food, good meat. Thank you, Lord. Let's eat.
Yes, that's what it is.
Man, that's what's up. That's what's up. Okay, so yeah, so we talked about what we like in terms of, you know what I'm saying, our own traditions within our either family or ethnicity or region or, you know, religion or whatever. But as we got older, we started dipping into each other's foods a little bit, and even, you know, outside of, you know, whoever's represented here, like food, you know, maybe if we visited the West Coast or friends from the West Coast or people from the diaspora that live in Europe or Africa or you know, wherever. So what were some of those experiences like when you maybe, you know, maybe when you traveled, or maybe the first time you had, you know, going off to college, going off to Oakwood or college or wherever, and you had friends from other parts of the diaspora and you ate their food? What were some kind of like key experiences or things that come to your mind when you think about that? Both of y'all want to go.
Go, Jackie.
Yeah, I mean, I have like a very specific memory in mind, and I'm like, oh, you know, I hope I don't get like emotional, like thinking and talking about it. But when I was little, you know, living in New York, living in an apartment building, before I was born, my mom connected with one of our neighbors who happened to be like an older woman. If my parents were in their 20s, she might have been in like her 40s or 50s or something, like maybe late 40s, early 50s. And so after I was born, she became like my caretaker. And I mean, I don't know what like babysitter or nanny, like I don't know like the right term, but like she was the woman who watched me. She was kind of like my grandmother because my grandmother didn't live in the like stateside. And we had some family in Brooklyn, but like they had their own lives. They couldn't watch me all the time, and it was just convenient that like this woman lived same floor, a few doors down. And she was Southern. She was from North Carolina. And so I would go to her house and we wouldn't have cream of wheat. We would have grits. And we would have like, you know, she would make like collard greens and the American mac and cheese. Like I had my first, you know, like I don't know, all kinds of like different like meats and foods and stuff that I like love now. I had them at her house. And I remember going back to my parents' house and being like, where are the grits? Where are the collard greens? And they were like, you better go back down the hall. But I also remember that I guess like as she got close to like retirement kind of age, she left New York and moved back to North Carolina. And so that's where I would go sometimes during the summer instead of.
Oh, really?
Summers, yeah, wow. So some summers I would go to my family like in the Caribbean. And then other summers I would go to North Carolina. Wow. And I know like going down south for the summer is like a very like Black American experience, but like I had that experience like as a Caribbean.
Wow. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like going down south, having the mac and cheese. Like I remember we didn't have like thunderstorms like that in New York, but I remember like we would have the thunderstorms and we would have to like sit in the dark. Like all these
That's how it was in Florida.
like, all these like Black American traditions, like I grew up with having them because of my relationship with my like American grandmother.
Oh wow,
man, that's dope.
That's really beautiful.
That's a beautiful story.
It really is, Jackie. Wow.
I like that. That was cool. My story's not as beautiful. Okay. My story.
And segue, hard transition.
Who you about to hate on now, John?
I'm about to hate on the Haitians and the Africans. Let me tell you why I'm about to hate on y'all. Because y'all food is way too spicy. You understand me?
Let me text Kool-Aid so that he could get his dish track ready.
Text Kool-Aid and text Dr. Prudent, okay? Because Astrid is a part of this, okay? Way too spicy. Why do y'all put all that pepper? You put everything in your food. You put every single pepper that's grown in South America in your food. You don't need to do all of that. It don't have to be that spicy. Bro, we know, like we get it.
It's a specific kind of pepper.
Just a specific, man, let me tell y'all something. Black Americans, our food palates ain't like that. The only reason I didn't even know hot sauce was like a big, let me tell y'all why I started eating hot sauce. I started eating hot sauce because my grandfather ate a lot of hot sauce. Always had to have hot sauce at his crib, so he would put hot sauce on the food. I wanted to be like my granddaddy. I was like, oh, granddaddy, that food tastes, your food tastes good. I want to put hot sauce on mine. He'll put like a little bit on it. I didn't realize that wasn't normal because he always did it. So everybody in the house put hot sauce on their food. But I found out later, the reason why he did it was because he smoked a lot. And he smoked so much that his taste buds burnt. So he couldn't taste food. Oh. He had to put hot sauce on it so that he could actually taste the food.
Interesting.
So that's why, you know what I'm saying? Like that. So I was like, oh, so you're not supposed to put hot sauce on food. We just did it because he did it. And he did it because he had to. So then when I started like seeing, when I went off to college and I met friends from, different places or whatever, I would go to different dinners, Haitian dinners, African dinners, whatever. They would have, oh, this food's spicy. Man, I'm good, bro. I've been eating Texas Pete since I was 5, nigga. I'm good, bro. Bring that on, bro. Bring that. Man, you can't eat. Your nose is running. Your eyes is glossy. You act like you looking like you just got a whooping.
It's delicious.
Delicious.
So spicy. Stop it. If you want to bring Black Americans into your culture, if you want us to be unified, stop putting all that spice in your food.
No, I disagree. I love it.
Gosh, it don't make no sense, man. I love my African and Haitian brothers.
It'd be hard though.
Y'all gotta do better about that.
So okay, speaking of spice though, like I grew up on hot sauce. I love hot sauce. I love spicy things, but everybody in my family won't do spicy. But I do love really, really spicy stuff. I will say though, when the one time that I went to Jamaica, and I hope I can go back sometime soon, we went on the side of the road. There was this restaurant that definitely very much was nondescript, but it's good. And everybody said this is the place that you go. And they had a jerk chicken. Yes, they had a jerk chicken that was delicious, yet it was so spicy I could barely eat it. And it's just like you're saying, John, it was just like, this is so spicy. And everybody else there, I'm one of the few Black Americans, and everybody else there is just like, and I'm like, this, and I can
y'all don't taste this?
Y'all don't taste this right now? I can take heat. Now I can say I can take heat, but that was on another level of spiciness, but it was still the most delicious jerk chicken I've ever had in my life. Absolutely. But I love spice. And speaking of, so my first experiences, I remember I had a friend in high school who was Jamaican. She had just started going to the school when I was in 8th grade. And so she would bring her lunches, and her lunches were the different foods. It was so good. And so all of us started just hovering around her food because it was also a very enterprising, no, seriously, she was also a kind of very enterprising kid. So she would start selling her lunches to us.
Let's go. Shout out to our immigrants. Shout out to the immigrants being real innovative.
Shout out to my homie. She knows who she ever listens to this. But anyway, so we would sometimes, but she would sometimes sell her sandwiches and stuff. And when I tell you her stuff would be seasoned down, for me, that was the best. Like I remember her mom used to make this sweet and spicy tofu because her mom was vegetarian. And of course, it's already tofu. It's hard to make delicious. And that wasn't something that I grew up with initially at all. And so to me, it was already kind of a foreign substance. And so, but her mom did the sweet and spicy tofu with like peppers and pineapple. And it was just so fresh and delicious and good. If she can make it now, her mom has come out with her own seasoning. She actually sells her own seasoning. Wow. Her stuff was so good. And I'm like, this ain't nothing like I've ever had. Like the season on it was great. And I was telling y'all earlier too, my first experience with like Jamaican cabbage, I was just like, what is
Jamaican cabbage is good. It really
was so good. So for me, I was just accustomed to just like some really basic like cabbage, salt and pepper, you got other stuff in it, but it didn't have peppers and it didn't have like, it wasn't curried it just wasn't the same. Yeah. And so that's first time I had that cabbage where it wasn't like all the way cooked down, kind of like I was very accustomed to the very soft cabbage. Yeah. But this one was the kind of slice, still got a little bit of crunch in it. It's more sauteed. And I was like, this is amazing. Oh my God. And then when I had plantains, what? Plantains?
But it's got to be the right kind of plantain though, because some of that plantain be overcooked, it be too thin, but the nice like, thick.
That's like bun, right? Is it like bun? Like for Haitians, there's like the kind that's like cooked twice and it's like harder. So there's different types of plantain. I do know that.
It's the same kind of plantain. It's just the way it's cooked.
It's just the way it's cooked, yeah.
Don't ask me because this is yet another food. And I said what I said. I don't do plantains.
Really?
I said what I said.
This is sounding like John and his friends thing versus living single. You don't do plantains.
That's interesting.
I said what I said.
Okay. The sweet, the cinnamon.
I will do a plantain chip. I do like plantain chips, but that's it.
I've never heard anybody of Caribbean descent say they didn't like plantain.
I stand alone. This is the hill that I may perish on.
God and God alone.
Yes. Wait, what don't you like about plantains? Like,
I just don't like. I don't like the flavor.
Is it the texture?
I don't like the texture. Like I just don't. And that's another thing that we have. Like like that would be a side dish for like a dinner meal or like a side dish for a special occasion meal. And I would just scoot right on by.
Really? I will pile those plantains on my plate just like I pile on deviled eggs.
Deviled eggs.
Plantains are my deviled eggs in the Caribbean. I'm like, please give me more plantains. I love them.
I do not do plantains. And it's also something that's debated in my household because West Africans say plantains.
Oh,
yeah, I've seen that debate.
We say plantain.
So I don't know which Caribbean or African or whoever makes it the best. All I know is, so there's a Jamaican restaurant up the street from me that I go to, and it's good, but their plantain is always overcooked. I don't like it, but like, and they're Jamaican, but like the thick ones that's like really juicy, those be like the best. Yeah. I'll get a whole. I'll just kill it. I
love plantains.
Like I love that. Now, I do want to ask y'all, like, what is the best food outside of your, you know what I'm saying, your group that you've had, even if it's regional. So like, okay, no. Another question, a better question. Out of all the places that you visited, which place had the best food and which place had the worst? And this could be within the states or outside the states. While y'all thinking about it, I already thought about it. So I
know my answer.
I got my answer. So the best dish I've ever had when I went to Tanzania, I went to Zanzibar and I had this fish. And it was the best fish I've ever had. So that was probably the best dish I've ever had. In terms of food, though, I would say I would probably have to say New Orleans. Like New Orleans in general has probably the best food in terms of like flavor and just sauce and just all of that. Um the worst was London. London has the worst food.
I haven't been to London yet.
It's just very plain. It's just very, it's not that. It's just plain. This is like,
so when you say the food, it was, you went to a Black restaurant in London or what?
Just different restaurants. I mean, not that it was nasty. It just wasn't. Yeah, it just wasn't. Yeah, it just wasn't anything special about the food there at all. And sorry, Jackie. So Jackie, out of all the places that I've ever been in the world, I love New York. I want to live in New York. It was like definitely one of my favorite places, hands down, I've ever visited. I love it. But I will never forget when I went there, I was like, yo, where do I go to get some like good, like Black food? Like, where do I go for like just good food? And they was like, you got to go to Harlem. You got to go to Sylvia's. That's like the best soul food. Like, woo. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm about to pull up in there. Woo, woo. I pulled up in that joint. I ordered like the chicken and waffles, staples. You know what I'm saying? The chicken and waffles, the greens, and I'm eating it. And I'm like,
Sylvia's is not that.
This is real. It wasn't nasty. It just was real regular. It did not live up to the hype. And then I remember talking to somebody who was from down south who lived in New York, and they was like, that's good for New York, but you can't compare it to down south. You're not gonna find nothing in New York in terms of soul food that's comparable to down south.
Well, I see there's actually a place in Harlem around the corner from Sylvia's named Amy Roof's, because I lived there for a summer. And everybody was saying like, go to Sylvia's. And when I went to Sylvia's, and I was like, this was not exciting. And I was like, there gotta be some other soul food places. And so there is a place called Amy Roof's. They are not like, they're literally right around the corner from Sylvia's. It just is not as well known. But Amy Roof's is delicious and can definitely rival a Southern restaurant.
Okay, all right.
There was another place that was on on 125th, basically, like around the area, Lenox Boulevard. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a soul food kitchen. It was just like kind of a hot bar.
And yes, I was about to bring that. I can't remember the name either.
Manners. It was called Manners Soul Food Kitchen. I have a picture of it. I don't know if it's still there, probably not, with all the gentrification that's been happening. And this was like over 10 years ago. And so, but that place was also delicious, but it was more like a hot bar of just, whoever's back there just knows how to cook different things. And they actually did it really well. And so I would say they had like great soul food as well. But Amy Roof's was my spot. And so I don't know, they are still there. So if you go back, up to Harlem, Amy Roof's is the place that I would go to. I would get their chicken and waffles, and I would get they had fried okra at that time that was really, really good. Yeah, I used to love them. But Sylvia's, as hyped as it is, was a huge disappointment to me. Like, I totally agree. And it would have left, if I had stopped at Sylvia's, I would have been like, New York, you don't know anything about soul food, because that was the place that everybody talks about and still talks about. I just can't say I'm a fan.
I agree with all that. Like and even, like living in New York as an adult after having lived in Atlanta and, going to school in Atlanta and having experienced, all kinds of soul food restaurants, and going back to New York and looking for a soul food restaurant and going to Sylvia's. Like, I had that same experience. Went there once, never went back again, and not missing anything in my life and not having gone back. I guess it is Manners, because like I couldn't remember the name, but like it's exactly what you're describing. And I thought that was good. I never went to Amy Roof's, though. Never like heard of it until you just said it. And I think part of that was just like, after going to Manners, after going to Sylvia's, I was like, I'm gonna just wait till I get back to Atlanta and have the Atlanta food that I'm used to.
It's true though.
But surprisingly, Dr. Hader, like I agree with everything that you said about, your food experiences. Like some of the best food I've ever had has been in New Orleans. And in fact, the last time I was in New Orleans, I went to a vegan place. I think it might be called Sweet Soul Food, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering right.
Have I gone to, is it well known down there? It's like a soul food spot.
It's a soul food
for
spot.
for like a vegan soul food spot.
A vegan soul food spot.
I think
Also like a little hot bar type situation, but you can like sit in there and eat. But you go through a little line, you get your food, and then you sit down and eat, or you take it to go, whatever. But last time I went, it was I was like it was right before the pandemic. I was like getting toward the tail end of doctor school, and went for a conference, went with two of my classmates who are not vegan or vegetarian by any stretch of the imagination, some of everything, but we all went together and they just raved about how delicious it was. And so like, I remember that being like some of the best food I've ever had, non-vegan, just that food was amazing. I also remember being in London. We didn't have Black food, but we went to like a food hall in London. And I remember the food that I got from that food hall being really delicious. It wasn't necessarily Black food, but was definitely like some kind of ethnic something, like non-white. I didn't have like what is the London stuff called? Like the breakfast, the English breakfast. Like I never had.
With the baked beans or something?
Yeah, I'm like, I wasn't interested in any of that, but I do remember we went to a sit down restaurant that got like really high reviews and we were expecting it to be really good. It was, I guess it's called in London, they call it going to get like a curry. It's like an Indian restaurant.
Okay.
And I just didn't find it to be tasty. I'm like, I've had better like Indian food in Atlanta and I was expecting like after all this hype for it to be really, really good. But that food hall was really delicious in London. And interestingly enough about New Orleans, I think one of the reasons that I think the food is so good is because it is the one place in the world where the diaspora comes together and the influences are not like subtle, like they are in your face.
Oh, that's a good point.
Black American, you see Black American in New Orleans, you see Caribbean in New Orleans, you see African in New Orleans, like you see these they're very explicit and in your face element of the diaspora. And I think like when the diaspora comes together, like it's New Orleans.
That's such a great point.
Yeah, it's New Orleans. It's like the best of the diaspora in one place, and that's why it's so delicious and great and wonderful.
Oh, that's a clip. I need to put that as a clip for the
IG.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Let me write that down.
I've been in New Orleans and I did go to a soul food place and the food, and we also went to a dining hall and the food was good. I think I feel like I need to go back so I can have more of a food experience because we didn't get out enough to do, we were kind of there for just a mission. And so I need to get out more and I need to get some recommendations on food places to go to. So New Orleans is going to be on my list again of places to go and to get some restaurant recommendations from y'all. In terms of my places, I can't get over that chicken that I had in Jamaica. That was one of the best. It's just, and I had festival for the first time, which is like this fried dough bread thing. And I just was like, this is crazy. And not to mention Jamaican beef patties. Like, to me, nothing like I need a good vegetarian Jamaican beef patty if somebody can make one. I know they have one with spinach and then there's another one with some vegetables, but it was just okay. But if somebody could come up with like a meat that actually tasted good, there's a Beyond Meat.
Yeah.
And I did not like that one that I think Golden Crust sells.
I was gonna say, I think Golden Crust now does.
I tried it, not the business at all. But like Jamaican beef patties are delicious. And so for me, my best experience, I would say, would still have been in Jamaica. And my worst experience, this isn't a Black country, but it was when I was in Spain. Spain is just and I think it was because they relied a lot on seafood, and I didn't do seafood at the time. And there's also a lot of pork. And so it just wasn't, their essentials are things that I just didn't eat. And so I didn't have a good time there in terms of food at all. But that was also a long time ago. I'm sure that there's more options now, but that was my experience that I can't say I enjoyed.
Yeah, I remember in Spain, we went to just like some random restaurant in like a touristy part of town that happened to have a veggie paella. I remember it being really expensive because it was kind of like being in like the Times Square of Spain, down in Barcelona. And I remember it being really, really delicious. But I also remember thinking like, this is like, again, like a little bit before the pandemic, that this whole idea of like people being vegetarian is really just kind of pervasive. So people are kind of catering to that. So.
That's what's up. It's interesting. I'm actually kind of going outside of the diaspora a little bit. And so I'm gonna say this before we go into the last subtopic. But well, it's still the diaspora because Black people was here too. But when we were talking about cabbage, just to kind of go back a little bit, we were talking about cabbage. What was that? I don't know what that was. Hold on real quick. I heard something in the background. Let me see what's going on.
There is a child present, so we must take care.
Correct. Amber, I completely forgot about festival. How could I? Like, that was such a like central part of my upbringing. Like this idea of like a fried dough that people make. And I don't know what it is in like Black American culture. I feel like there is one, but I'm just like blanking on the name. In my kind of Caribbean people, we call them Johnny cakes. And
Okay.
It's fried dough, you know, it's like a bread.
When Johnny Cake met Joe Law.
Right.
Listen, and I remember like as soon as they would come out the fire and still be like nice and crisp on the outside from being, you know, fried in that oil, but super soft on the inside. My favorite thing was to like cut it open, put a slice of cheese in it. That cheese would melt immediately because it's hot. You know, take that bite, and of course, like you burn in your mouth, so you're like eating this. It was so.
I don't know what it is about eating food like that.
Listen, it's so delicious. It don't matter if you don't have taste buds for the next 15 days. It don't matter. It's just delicious right there. But that was also a big part of my upbringing. But that was more like a weekend thing because it took time to like make that dough and then, you know, like roll it out and like fry it and all that stuff. So
facts on facts. Yo, so our last subtopic before we go into our conveniently takeout boxes. Talking about food. Food as a form of expression. So like I think, and I talked about this earlier, and so I would love to get like just kind of like y'all's perspective on like how food was used as a form of expression in y'all's like traditions and family. And if I could hypothesize, I would imagine it's probably all the same for us, because although we have different meals, we have different ways in which we eat, we have different environments in which we cook in and that sort of thing. The one thing that I think might be similar, but you know, I could be wrong, is how food really expressed the love. You know what I'm saying?
I would say that, yeah.
That we have for each other. Like I said, food was kind of the way in which we showed support in our family. You know what I'm saying? So we couldn't always like buy super expensive things or whatever. But you know, if I said, Auntie, I'm coming in town, please make your sweet potatoes. Please. Like that was, and she made like a big pan. Like that was just as good as like a, you know, like a big Christmas gift or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, food was definitely a way of like expressing love, expressing support. Anytime anybody did anything in the family, we gonna get together, we gonna come together, then we all gonna eat. You know what I'm saying? I remember my grandmother used to make this amazing banana pudding. I used to love my grandmother's banana pudding. And she's like 90 something years, so she haven't made it in a long time. But every time I came to her house, she would make it so much I got tired of it. But I would never tell her I was tired of it because I knew that she was doing it because she know my grandson loved this banana pudding. You know what I'm saying? So I would just eat it anyway, even though I'm like, Grandma, I've been eating this for 25 years. I was like, I'm done with this. but I know that that's, you know, that was her way of showing love. So food was definitely a form of expressing love, in my experiences in my family. And even now that I think about it, like even in my travels with like friends going on vacation and stuff like that, every place that I've been, I could think, actually every Black place, because like going to, like when I visited like China, when I visited Paris and all that, like food didn't really stick out to me, but like going to New Orleans, going to New York, going to LA, going to like those places, like Black places, I remember the food distinctly, you know what I'm saying? And like what I ate and how me and my friends was kicking it or whatever, as we going to Jamaica, like as we ate and what that was. So yeah, like food, and then of course like creativity too. You know what I'm saying? I always looked at it as like a way of showing how your style was unique. You know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier, like just like music, like how your style was unique or how your family was unique or whatever. So food to me definitely was that expression of love, support, creativity, uniqueness. And I think you said it best, Amber, earlier, just like flavor and just everything that comes with just flavor is just who you are. Like flavor is just whatever's inside of you, what you know what I'm saying? Like who your own personality, your own like swag, like they probably call it swag now or whatever. Like that's what that flavor is. And so I think food is just like an extension of that.
I would agree. Like for me, you touched on it first, which is just love. Like my grandmother, I feel like I mentioned how she makes cakes. Her cakes are just divine, and she is not at the space now where she can make cakes anymore because of her body and just the work that it takes and all that, and just having the space to do it. But she still wants to, and I think that's the thing where she's just like, I want to make a cake for y'all, and it's just like that's her own way of wanting to show love because it was her thing, and everybody will rave about her cakes. And finally, one day, I asked her to show me how to make a cake. And once I saw all of the work that it took, I was like, wow, she be doing this? Like this is a lot, you know, to be doing, to just be making these cakes, like all the different steps. And so one of my love languages, my main love language is acts of service. And so when I see food, like if someone prepares me a meal or something like that, for me, it is like this is such an act of service because of just the work that it takes. Like I remember when my friends planned me a surprise birthday party when I was in Boston, and all the food that they had prepared, and I'm just like, you all cut these onions up for me, you all cut these peppers up for me.
Cut these
so it's like
for your girl.
No, for me that matters because when you talk about like these dishes, these are
they probably put it in an onion cutter, right? Like, put these in here real quick.
Still did
it's gonna take 3 seconds.
But it matters to me. And so Jackie, just like what you were saying, like these hot meals that took like hours to prepare or something, it really is an act of love and sacrifice, because it's like, when did you have time to do this? It's like you got to go get the ingredients, and like how you're saying, John, your aunt making like sweet potatoes. It's like, you know how much it takes to do yams? Like you gotta, it's work. Any of the soul food, it's work. Okay, especially if you're gonna be making it from scratch. But it comes out looking so easy. And to me, it's just like, it's such an expression of love that I think even in families that don't know how to emotionally process together in other ways or to necessarily express emotion, I think food is probably one of those communication mediums. Because honestly, my family growing up, I would say we were very big on like saying, well, my extended family saying I love you and things like that, but I think it was expressed in different ways, whether it was the making of the food or the attendance at the gathering, and we're just coming together and just, you know, affirming each other in different ways that, you know, it wasn't always, we were affirming each other through the eating of the food, you know, it wasn't always like, Uncle, you're so smart. It's more like, man, your food is good, man. This, you know, you really did good on these chicken wings. It's like, yeah. So I think it was kind of a conduit for emotional, I guess I would say, even engagement with each other. Because I've been thinking more lately about how we emote together as a family and how we talk through emotions. And And I don't think we really did it verbally in so much or as a practice. But when I think about food and food being used in the making of food as a expression of love, it really was there. I could say that that was a way that we express love with each other. And then for me now, I feel like one of my friends, when I was in the kitchen, she was watching me and she was like, "You're like an artist in here. It's just like the way you're like this and this and this and this." And I just want to keep working at that because I do feel like it's a place where I can really like use a different sense than I use at work. So at work, a lot of times it's very heady work, but here it's just very much visceral and physical. And I like that experience of just kind of having to like really tasting and like taste something and saying it needs a little bit of ginger or something like that. And so I feel like as I continue,
I'm starting ginger on.
Yeah, ginger. So ginger helps almost
Ginger
everything.
helps a lot.
And so now I feel like I would like to use it more as artistic expression. And like what you all just gave me such a good example of just being more intentional about when I'm cooking, putting on something that kind of puts me in this mindset of artistry. I would really like to start doing that. So after this episode, I might have to start taking pictures of my things because another thing, plating is so important to me. I really want to learn how to plate better.
Yeah, that's a
and
good
to just
point.
because one of the first way you eat is with your eyes. If you do have vision in that way. I don't want to say like a person who doesn't. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, so like you can eat with your eyes first, and then of course you eat with your nose. And so just having that whole experience first. I really want to get good at it, like really, really good. So yeah, that's where I am with that.
Oh,
I feel like y'all talked about love, and I think one of the first things that came to mind for me was like connection, but that didn't really develop until I was like older and had more of an awareness of the world, really. And it helped me, like this idea of connection in terms of like how all these different foods are connected, but just like how the diaspora is really connected. And it really helped me just like in terms of like, when I was like, I don't know, like in my 20s, for example, just like thinking through like my own place in society, in the world, like it really helped me to build more of a sense of self, just realizing this connection through food and through like Black identity. And so specifically when I think about food, like some of the examples that come to mind are like the rice dishes that we have. And I like to say, and I'm sure like people who do like food studies have done this like more elaborately, but like red beans and rice, or like Caribbean rice and peas, like the one that's tomato based, that's nothing but jollof rice. And so, it's just like, here we have like this like red rice that's being made on the continent and being made in the Caribbean and being made here in like Black American culture. When I think about like greens, like dark greens, whether it's like collard greens here in like Black American culture, or like callaloo in Caribbean culture, or like another dark green on the continent. Like I just think about like all of these examples where it's just like, oh, we just found whatever is like local or indigenous to where we were, and we recreated like our roots. And we continue to do that to this day. Even when we think about just like how we put together seasonings, like all of that just feels really connected. Even if I go to, like, I remember being in like Cuba or South Africa, like all of these places where the food is really different, but like the feeling and like the root feeling of the food is the same. It's just like this combination of lots of flavors, and the types of foods that are like similar. So I don't know, I feel like for me, food feels very connected.
Gotcha.
Deepening my own like Afro-Caribbean culture, but also really clearly seeing a link between culture and like Black American culture and continental African culture, like even like Afro-Latina culture, etc. So
and that just makes me think too, in addition to like the rice and pea dishes or like corn, the way all of the different ways we use corn and use this kind of grit-like substance. So for me, it's like grits, and then like there's cornmeal, and then there's, when I went to Kenya, there's ugali. And then I know there's something in Ghana too that's still, there's like that, it's like that thick, it's just different textures of grits, basically. And when I went to Kenya and tried ugali, it was just like, this is just like grits that feels like it's sat for a long time. But I'm like, I still am familiar with this. The texture is different, but it's just like, we're doing the same thing. It's like we're so connected across the continent. And so of course, I know part of what inspired us for this episode too was just John and I have watched High on the Hog, and Jackie's watched a portion of it. And that, if you haven't seen that show yet on Netflix, please check it out. It is just such a beautiful narrative, and kind of, I'm not even sure what to call it. Besides, it's just a chef who he goes to the continent, and he also showcases different like foods here in the States, and just their ancestral stories and backgrounds, and it's just really beautiful. And it does food. When I think about the diaspora, it is one of those things that it's one of those saving graces, I feel, of that just reminds you that like slavery wasn't the only thing that happened to us. And I say that because it's like we are so much more than that. Yes. Like it's like one of those reminders. I know y'all have seen, I think we've said this enough, but I don't know if y'all have seen that little meme where it's like the Pink Panther and he has on like a little one of those little square top hats. I think what are those hats called? I forget what those little hats are called, but then he's reading a magazine and it says, "We was Kangs." Have y'all seen those different things? It's like, "We was Kangs."
Oh, like a little poopy hat. Yeah.
So to me, it's just another one of those. It's like we don't have to always go so far back to be like, "We was kings and queens," okay? But it's just like, no, like that's fine. That's a part of our story, and it's just like we're here. We're still here, you know. It's in our food traditions, it's in our dance traditions, it's in our music traditions, and you can still very much see us. Like slavery wasn't the only thing that happened. We are a part, like we are alive and well in that sense, where it's just like we didn't lose everything. We did lose a lot. We did not lose everything. And part of it is just like it's how our ancestors are living through us in the way that we prepare our foods. Like our connection to the motherland is there because it's like we want the flavor. We need the flavor. It's just, I feel like it's just one of those things that just feels good to see, like, I'm not as disconnected as I, you know? So.
Yeah, I'm just saying Amber conclusion need to be a clip too. That was so good. that was such a great wrap up. Yeah, I don't have nothing else to say after that.
Let's go straight to our takeout boxes then. Let's go to our takeout boxes. What are you taking away from this conversation?
Basically what y'all said, like the two things. Like I love what Jackie said about New Orleans being like just a conglomerate of the African diaspora. It in this bold, explicit way. Like I think that's what it is. Like, you know, of course, people look at Atlanta as the Black Mecca. People look at New York as like, you know, another very, very much a Black Mecca in terms of our history and the center of a lot of Blackness and hip hop and a lot of things coming out of New York. But it's something about New Orleans, and if I'm just add a historical piece, it could be because it was one of the first and very bold free colonies of color, free like places of color where, I mean, you had enslaved Black people, you had poor Black people, then you had these very rich Black people, even during slavery times in this place. So, you know, that in addition to being very close to Haiti during the Haitian Revolution, it being on, it being a part of the Americas, but then it was a French colony. So it's just so much with New Orleans that I think when you just kind of explain that, and the reason why that food may be that good is just almost the best of Blackness in New Orleans. I love that. I've never put that together before, so that's amazing. And then what Amber said, I thought that was a great part of the takeout box too. Is I love that. Like I got emotional when you were just talking. Like we didn't lose everything. Like slavery is not just us. Like we maintained our connection to the motherland through our food. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more than just food. It's our story. It's how we talk to each other. It's how we're telling Africa that we long for Africa. It's Africa telling us that like you're still here.
Yeah, you're still here. Yes.
Like we're like we, even though we may be very geographically, like we're still connected. And like how you were just talking about just the different forms of like grit, like grits and corn and whatever else it might be called. Like, man, that's just so beautiful. Like I love that. I love like, and honestly, just us talking, this definitely has been one of my out of all of our episodes, one of my top favorite, because I love talking about it. I love talking about is how this is not just food, but it's this larger culture, this larger meaning, this larger kind of song that we're all singing to each other through, you know what I'm saying, through our cuisine. So that's my top.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mine is super simple. Mine is like, I am hungry after talking about like, dang, what am I gonna make? Am I gonna go Black American, Black Caribbean, continental? Like, am I gonna do like some kind of New Orleans hodgepodge? Like, what am I about to make? Like, I'm inspired to like just make something now. And partly because I'm like hungry after talking about all this delicious food. So make some Caribbean mac and cheese.
Shout out to y'all.
That's great. For me, it was one thing that I actually wanted to say before, but I feel like now it still feels just right. I think even when I was coming into thinking about this episode and thinking about food of the diaspora, there's a part of me that takes myself out of history and feels like I need to depend on reading about Africans or people of the diaspora somewhere else so that they can tell me what it is, rather than just speaking from my own experience. Like my experience is valid in the conversation of the diaspora. That's why I love that we talked about each of our own experiences and didn't necessarily go to something else that's documenting this is what Black Americans eat or this is what Caribbeans eat, because it's my story too. Right. And so I feel like, I'm a part of the story. And so I feel like it's that validation of my own self and my own experience to say, this is also what it means to grow up as a Black American. Like, this is my story and all of our stories are not the same. And so it feels good to place myself in the story and to place my family in the story as well. And then we can see commonalities and recognizing that all of us have different stories. And that's what makes us human, is to have these different stories. And I think it's good that we exchange them like this, because everyone's story is not the exact same. And I think that that's beautiful. So we can find things that are similar and also celebrate the differences. And with that, like what you said, John, it just made me think of something about like how you said, it's like the food is a song that we sing together. So it makes me think that like our cuisine across the diaspora is where we join in chorus. It is where we are finally in unison. It's just like we all have our different verses. Like you got the sopranos, like I have this, you got the sopranos super high. It's like, what's that song? Hallelujah, whatever their little part is. Wait, that's anyway. You know what I'm talking about. You got all the different pieces, but then it's the part where you come together. It's just like, we sing in unison and we sing and we have a chorus here, and we can see where our voices blend and where our blood blends together and all of that. And that's just beautiful to me. So I feel like I'm taking away that our cuisine is a chorus. I'm taking away that I'm a part of this story. And I'm also taking away the inspiration to use cuisine and cooking as more artistic expression. Like I really want to be more intentional about that. So thank you all. That is definitely something that I am taking away with me and I'm going to do something with. So I feel really good about this conversation.
Man, me too. All right, y'all. All hearts and minds clear.
Yes.
We good. Been another episode, y'all. Street Academy Podcast, where we keep one foot in the academy and one foot in the streets. Make sure you follow us at Street Academy Podcast on IG. Make sure you check out our YouTube or Google. All you gotta do is type in Street Academy Podcast, and you will see where we are, or wherever most places that you get podcasts, you will be able to find us. So thank y'all for hollering at us. Peace.
Peace. And bon appetit.
All right. That's it.
All right. Did you stop the recording?
Oh.
That's what I more so mean, John. Like the first time you had, I'm sure you've had.
Oh yeah, I definitely got some stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially being at Oakwood. Like the first time I had, was it? I think I went to a Haitian. It was like a Haitian potluck or like an African potluck.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that food so spicy, bro? Like, why you can't put Lowry's on it like every other nigga in the diaspora? It was so.
Why is your stuff so spicy? Okay, we starting the show.
Yes, I knew you were about to say that. Will you bring that back up? I have a story to follow up with that.
That's great.
Way too much.
That's
especially
great.
like Africans and Haitians do way too much with that spice. Can't even enjoy the meal because you just jalapenos everywhere. Anyway,
Scotch bonnet peppers.
right? Habanero peppers everywhere. Use banana peppers like every other nigga. Like Domino's use banana peppers. Anyway.
That you know got their feet upon the neck of the haters, the game and the devil like